Hello and welcome to a look at Krakout for the Commodore 64, a breakout game that was released by Gremlin. Now, instead of just covering this game, I will use this video as a general comment on breakout games for the Commodore 64. That way I don't necessarily have to cover any other versions of the game type, because of course many of them are very similar in foundation. So let us spend a bit of time talking about the concept of a breakout. The basic concept is incredibly simple. You have a bat or paddle, whatever you call it. I prefer to call it bat and will henceforth call it a bat. And a ball and a bunch of bricks that you need to destroy by using the ball. And of course, your aim is to keep the ball in play by deflecting it back using the bat. Once all bricks of a given level has been destroyed, you move on to the next level and rinse and repeat with various different setups of bricks, depending on the quality of the level designer. Now, while the game has a certain amount of enjoyment in and by itself, certain people decided that they should spice things up in order to make the gameplay more exciting. Things like enemies appearing on the screen that will be more or less aggressive, more or less dangerous, and more or less annoying were added as a general theme, and of course the ever important power-ups that you could obtain. Depending on the game you are playing, the power-up system may be more or less wonky, or more or less funky, or more or less completely out of control. But just to mention a few of the other breakout games that were made, likely the most popular, well-known, famous, whatever you call it, would be Arkanoid and Arkanoid 2. Arcade conversions by Imagine that didn't suck. I know it's unheard of. Preciously few arcade conversions, at least through the Imagine label, didn't suck, but Arkanoid and Arkanoid 2 specifically didn't. Arkanoid 2 went completely and utterly bonkers when it comes to power-ups, because I mean you could get the lasers to shoot the bricks with and multiple, but you can also get a ball splitter that basically caused your ball to explode into 10,000 balls, which is slightly exaggerated but not by much, causing the entire screen to become alive with balls that you could try and keep in play. Yeah, I should rather say fail to keep in play, but you get the idea. Another game that was released was called Transformable Arcade Zone, or TRAS, by Cascade Games, which took the concept of breakout and went into areas no breakout game should ever go. Like, instead of just having one bat, why settle for one when you can have two, and why settle for two when you can have four? So basically you ended up with a breakout game where you at times would control two bats on opposite sides of the play screen, or play field I should say, but also two bats at top of and bottom. So you would use left and right to control the top and bottom ones, and up and down to control the sideways one. And yes, you would have to make use of both sets of bats in order to have any hopes of keeping the ball in play. Unless you are a very skilled gamer, that game, in my opinion, became impractical to play. The concept was cool, but the execution of it was, lack of a better word, outright ridiculous. Now, with that being mentioned, we can turn our attention towards this game specifically, Krakout. Somewhat unique for the game type, you can have the bat being on the left-hand side or the right-hand side. That is something you can choose yourself. I prefer to have it on the left side, but whatever works. But of course, in most Breakout games, the bat would be at the bottom of the screen, and having it at the side instead is somewhat unique, but it doesn't take much getting used to. Looking at the graphics side of things, for a Breakout game, I find that this looks perfectly decent. The different bricks, I mean bricks are bricks, but different enemies and other objects are fairly well drawn and surprisingly detailed for a Breakout game. The sound design, a lot of people seem to be very split concerning the sound design. Let's talk music first, because the music, which of course is playing in the background right now, is basically the same theme, but different variations of it. And while I can agree that it is perhaps not Ben Daggers' best music ever, I still find it entirely enjoyable, even though certain people has been mentioning that it is unbearable to listen to. Each to their own. I do not find it particularly bad in any way, shape or form. Could imagine I would get sick of it at some point, but I'm perfectly okay with it. I like the funkiness of some of the variations of the tune. When it comes to sound effects, I've mentioned before that a lot of Commodore 64 games in general have weak sound effects, and I don't necessarily, I wouldn't indicate in any way, shape or form that it is a system issue. It's more of a sound designer decision to focus on music instead of sound effects. But the sound effects, which of course were played in the first part of this video, are actually surprisingly decent in this game. Like, actually decent enough that I have a hard time deciding when I play this game whether I play it with sound effects or music, because I enjoy both in equal measures, and there is some very funky sound effects that you would miss while playing with the music, because of course unfortunately you cannot have both. From the sound side, I'm definitely perfectly happy with this game. And from the graphical side as well. The controls are up and down to move the bat, and when you hold on to the ball for various reasons, you will have to press fire button to release the ball, and then you will use the fire button to fire off missiles if you get any of such. If you hold down the fire button, you will also move the bat faster, which can be quite useful in certain situations. The bonuses you can get include standard fare like extend, which will increase the size of your bat, glue, which will cause your bat to be covered in glue, meaning that you hold on to the ball when it returns, which of course is always beneficial that you can actually aim the ball. Other things like X2, which will double the score you get for breaking bricks. You have the D, which will give you 2 bats, and as we got them right now, often that you can find that the ball can get trapped between the 2 bats, causing it to eventually deflect out of play, but it makes you immune to bees, which I will get to when we talk about the enemies. Other bonuses, the bombs that are on certain levels, if you hit them they will blow up and take out bricks around them. Missiles, which will allow you to fire a missile in a straight line, taking out bricks in a straight line, whether they are destructible or indestructible, it will clear them all. And you can also get a shield power-up, which will create a barrier behind you, depending on which side of the screen you are playing from, and that will of course prevent the ball from going out. And if you dare, I should rather say, increasing the ball speed by um, pushing it up against the shield to build up the speed. Then you can have the ball blow around, clearing the entire screen over time, increasing your score quite dramatically if you make sure not to hit it with the bat. Unfortunately, you risk that the shield will drop and the ball will come hammering out of the screen. Of the various enemies, most of them are relatively harmless. They just float around willy-nilly, are a nuisance, and causes the ball to be deflected in various unfortunate angles, which can be a pain, but it's not something you can't manage. Then you have enemies with full hole-in on the bat, which of course, if the ball is in the general direction of the bat, can be a bloody nuisance. And then you have enemies that will hole-in on the ball, causing the ball to go in some wonky directions. As long as you can anticipate the deflection, it's not too bad. Then you have bees. Bees are fun because if they hit your bat, they will freeze you in place, which is actually infinitely more humiliating than destroying your bat, because the only thing you can do is wait for the ball to go out of play and losing a life in the process. Another enemy that comes much later is actually hilarious, at least the first time you bump into it, because it will eat your ball, chew on it and spit it out directly at your bat, and of course you can't deflect a chewed up ball, so you end up losing a life, and it is quite funny in a bizarrely painful masochistic way. In conclusion, Krakout is possibly not a game style for everyone, and that's perfectly okay. I enjoy them when I start playing them, even though I wouldn't necessarily seek them out. But if I was to intentionally aim for a Breakout game to play for any length of time, Krakout would be very, very high on my personal list. And that's possibly the nicest thing I can say about it. Thanks for watching, take care, see you next time, bye bye for now.